Hello, it's me again. Well, what I've decided to do is do a series of videos, 12 in total, one a week, outlining my experience of the 12 steps. Now, obviously, it might not be your experience, that's okay. It's not designed for people that have already done it, actually. It's designed for people that haven't done it. So, because there's a lot of myth surrounds the steps, isn't there? Let's be fair. There's a lot of, a lot of misinformation and a lot of fear that's generated by, by people before they, before they trying to get the phone to stay steady. There you go. Before oh, this step's very frightening. Obviously, I mean, if you're anything like me, you probably are in some ways. Then you'll have looked at the steps and thought, fuck that, I'm not doing that, and I'm not doing that, and I'll do that one, I'm not doing that one. Obviously, that's, that's not really the way forward, is it? So I thought, what it would be a good idea is to, get an understanding of, the book of Alcoholics Anonymous. Yeah, I've said it. And also, the 12 steps in my experience. Now, like I said, take from it what you will. It's designed, my intention is to help somebody, and I'm hoping it does. As long as it helps one person, that's enough. And even if that one person is me, that's enough also. So, I'm not got any expectation on the outcome, and because that'd be stupid. And and that's it. So, one video a week for the next 12 weeks. The worst thing that could happen is that I never get another 12 weeks sober. So, I mean, how good is that? And the best thing that could happen is it helps somebody. Fucking great also. Okay, so, let's begin. Now, step one, we admitted we were powerless over alcohol. You can substitute that for anything you like. Cream cakes, women, men, gambling, money, whatever it is your addiction. How to define if it's an addiction. If you're trying to have control over it, generally that's a very good example, because if you need to have control over something, then you've lost control, haven't you? There you are. So that's really what determines powerlessness. So admit we were powerless over, or you leave that blank, whatever is your thing, and that your life had become unmanageable. Well, what exactly does that mean? The whole sentence. Let's just look at it bit by bit. I was taken through the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, word by word, line by line, paragraph by paragraph, page by page, so I could understand it, because there were words in there that I thought I knew what they meant, but I didn't, and I was too scared to ask. So I just assumed I knew what they was, and then obviously the book didn't mean what it was supposed to mean, did it? Because I was using the wrong analogies, or wrong descriptions of words to determine what my understanding was, which is ridiculous. So I needed to be honest, what I needed was someone to show me, which eventually I got. So now I do understand it. Obviously it's one thing to know the steps before we all start banging on about that. It's one thing to know the steps, but there's another thing to do them. There's two different experiences going on there. But one thing's for sure, you can't do them until you know what they are, until they know what they mean. So first step is let's understand what we're doing, and then the next thing is do it. So first word, very important, we. Now, probably the same for you. Even when I was younger, I was very internal. I call it egocentric, basically narcissistic. I just sort of thought about myself all the whole time. Everything was about me, everything concerned me, everything somehow related to me, affected me in some way. So that obviously leads to loneliness, doesn't it? Being alone. But when I say loneliness, the thing about alcoholics and addicts and whatever else is that loneliness wasn't about not being around people. Oh no. It was about not being connected to them. And that's a fucking problem, isn't it? When you've got people around you, literally in your physicality, in your vicinity, and you're not connected to them. I mean, some of them were my own family who you'd think you would be connected to, but emotionally I was not, because I wouldn't really share anything that was really going on for me. Didn't know how to, and first of all was really brought up to think that was wrong. to do that. No one's fault. I'm not blaming anybody, but that's just how it was. And secondly, it would have been difficult for me to define exactly how I was feeling on a moment-by-moment basis because I didn't really understand what was going on. And even if I did know, I was encouraged not to share it. So, I mean, that on its own is going to lead to a bit of loneliness, isn't it? So, yeah. So the good news is, we, myself and others, what that indicates is, you know, the first real sign of connection with human beings, really, to know that I'm not alone. And more importantly, not that I'm physically got people around me, is that I'm not the alone in the way that I feel and the way that I think, and also the way that I act. You know, thoughts precede feelings and feelings precede actions, don't they? And actions precede reactions. So that's as simple as that. So, you know, we admitted. Well, I'd admitted to lots of different people that I was a drug addict, but never myself. Obviously, I admitted it to other people because it suited me. Oh, I can't help what I'm doing, I'm an addict. You know, totally not believing that at all. I just thought, well, that sounds like a good idea, a reason for why I'm acting like a CUNT. I'll use that. And I did do. Everywhere I went, you know, judges, magistrates, courts, schools, teachers, girlfriends, jobs, friends, everything you can think of. Well, I'm an addict, you know, can't really help it, you know what I mean? Well, the truth was I couldn't help it because I didn't know there was an alternative. That's the truth of it. But you know, I hadn't told myself. You see, the key thing here is that I had to concede, surrender to my innermost self, my heart, that I was an alcoholic. Right? Well, the thing about that is you need to know. Well, I needed to know what an alcoholic was first, because I always had an idea that an alcoholic was, you know, somebody that woke up in the morning and had a drink straight away as soon as they opened their eyes, lived on a park bench and smelled of piss, you know. I mean, I hadn't really given it much thought, really. I mean, if you had to, at that stage, if you'd had to push me for an explanation of what an alcoholic is, that's what I would have said. Although, it didn't really occur to me what about alcoholism or anything like that, even though I was one. There you are, you see. I mean, that's an insane statement, isn't it, for a start? I mean, I was an alcoholic and didn't even know that I was that. And even if I'd have given you a description of what I thought one was, it was nothing like what I was doing. There you are. There's the illusion. You know, so admitted, for me, just means to admit to myself. It doesn't mean to admit to anyone else, because I can do that till the cows come home. It'll mean nothing at all unless I've conceded, surrendered to my innermost self, my heart, that I'm an alcoholic. Now, what is an alcoholic? What does an alcoholic? How do you determine? This is the hotbed, isn't it? The cauldron of debate. How do you determine what is an alcoholic? And I'm going to keep it simple, extremely so. For me, an alcoholic is somebody who drinks even when they don't want to. Not every time, but drinks even when they don't want to. And when they start, they can't stop. That's it. So, you know, when someone told me that, I went back through my life and thought, yeah, there's loads of times when I knew the consequences were so severe that I shouldn't be drinking. I couldn't drink because it was going to make the situation so bad, but I did it anyway, against my will. You know, I had no control. Obviously, I tried to have control, but it was temporary and short-lived. And what it did was just led to a worse relapse, really. Even if I did get any drier time, you know, the next time I did drink, I'd be up fucking, you know, it'd be disaster as usual. Yeah. So, an alcoholic for me, let's keep it simple, is I drink when I don't want to, and when I start, I can't stop. Why do I drink when I don't want to? Well, two parts to that also. Or one part, whatever. I've got an obsession of the mind. My mind will tell me, well, it's not so much as, it is an obsession of the mind, but it will come up with all sorts of myriad of excuses why it's okay to drink, even though the evidence is to the contrary. It will tell me it'll be different this time. It wasn't my fault before. I know how to control it now. I've got some self-knowledge, so I'll avoid certain situations. I won't drink in the morning. I won't drink at night. I won't drink with a girlfriend. I will drink with a girlfriend. I won't drink if I've got a job, without a job, money, no money. Every single reason of trying to beat the reality that every time you know, I do it, it's going to end up I'm going to end up in a shit heap. And the reason why I would do that is because I need to shut my head up. We'll talk about that in a second. But because I need to shut my head up, of course I'm going to justify it with any feeble excuse I can come up with. In fact, sometimes I don't even have any excuse. I knew what was going to happen and carried on doing it anyway. Some people say insanity is repeating the same mistake over and over again and expecting a different result. Well, yeah, that is insanity, but I've got a more profound example of insanity. Is knowing what's going to happen, not pretending it's not going to, knowing it and still doing it. That for me is the purest form of madness there can be. And the reason that I would be driven to those depths, those lengths, is because I had a screaming head and no way to shut the fucker up. So obviously I'm going to listen to any old excuse why it's okay to drink, because I need to shut my fucking head up. Right, so I drink even when I don't want to, and the reason why. Now, what I do when I start, I can't stop. Well, that's because of an allergy of the body. Now, most people drink, normal drinkers can drink, and you know, alcohol goes around their system through the bloodstream up to the neuron, not up to the old receptors in the brain box, the pleasure receptors, the pleasure house, and they give off a little boom, 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 you know, a little bit of feel good, and that's the end of that. And then, say if someone has another one, they get a bit more feel good, until in the end it becomes a depressant, i.e. gives you a little bit, makes you a little bit sleepy, and people go home and go to bed, or you know, have whatever they do, you know. That's a normal person. Let me tell you about me. The alcohol goes around my system, can't get broken down by the enzymes in my system properly, so it stays in a purer form than it should be, hits my receptors. Because it's in a purer form, it mutates the receptors until in the end, what the actual result of that is that the receptors are calling out for more. And it's a call that I can't ignore. It's beyond my control. I have to have more. Even though all evidence says that if I carry on, I'm going to be fucked. I've no choice, absolutely no choice at all. Once I have the first one, that's it. I have no control over the second one, or any of them. And I also have no control over where I'm going to end up and in what condition. Normally when I've run out of money, but if I haven't run out of money, it'll be when I've caused so much trouble that I'm at a roadblock mentally. I can't drink anymore because I'm incarcerated or in a nut house. So, there we have it. I drink when I don't want to because of an obsession of the mind, and when I start I can't stop because of an allergy of the body. So we can really define an alcoholic by being physically different and mentally different. If you drink even when you don't want to, so at times, and when you start you can't guarantee where you're going to stop, you're an alcoholic. We can argue as much as you want. And I know people say, well, you shouldn't say someone's an alcoholic. Well, I'm telling you, if you've got an allergy of the body and an obsession of the mind, you're a fucking alcoholic. Simple as that. Let me save you a lot of pain by telling you the truth. Whether you accept it or not is up to you. Now, you can go around quoting it now and telling the people exactly what's wrong with you if you want, like I did, but that won't be admitting it to yourself, will it? You've got to concede, surrender to your innermost self, your heart, that you're an alkie. And if it's your truth that you drink even when you don't want to, and when you start you can't stop, then you're fucked unless you get some help. That's it. It's a life sentence. Simple as that. And you're not going to change an allergy of the body. If a man's allergic to peanuts, what treatment do you think you could give him to help him with that allergy to peanuts? Put him in the sunshine somewhere? You know, buy him some nice clothes. What about letting him go have a sunbed? Perhaps if he has a sunbed and buys a nice pair of fresh white sneakers, he'll get over that allergy. Willy bollocks. That's never going to change, is it? We both know that, don't we? Okay, good. So that's that. So, you know, I'm an alcoholic, defined by I drink even when I don't want to, and when I start, I can't stop. Okay, so we admit, it's to our innermost selves, our heart, that we were alcoholic, right? So we admitted we were powerless. Okay. Now let's look at the word power, shall we? I mean, you know, powerless. I mean, come on. Let's be honest. We don't have to be in a wheelchair, you know, speaking with a voice box, do we, to understand what powerless means. Powerless means no power, doesn't it? Let's not get too deep inside it. I mean, I think this is the general problem. We want to analyse the bollocks out of it, basically putting off doing any work. That's the strength of it, isn't it? You know. Or what does I had one guy when I was helping him before. I had one guy, and we was on step 9, and we've been doing it for fucking hours. And it was driving me insane. I lived on a 6th floor block of flats, and I literally wanted to throw him out. It was being so argumentative, and in the end, he said, well, and then he went, we was on step 9, he said, well, I've just got one sort of slight problem. I thought, yeah, well, okay, what is it? And he said, by now I'm losing my temper, obviously, not the greatest sponsor in the world. This guy was deliberately trying to wind me up, and he'd worked. He said, oh, I've got a problem with part of step 1. So what's that? He said, the word we. I said, mate, you've been here 12 fucking hours, and you still got a fucking problem with the word we. I just said, well, I'll explain it like this. We will be parting company soon, and one will be throwing the other one over the fucking balcony of this fucking block of flats, mate. So, you know, whatever. Anyway, so, powerless, no power. You know, you don't have to, if you're allergic to carrots, you don't eat them, do you? There you go. If you're an alcoholic, you shouldn't be drinking, should you? If you're an alcoholic, you know that if you have one, it's going to set you off and it's going to set off that craving, and off you go to the races. Why do you do it then? Obsession of the mind. Okay. So it says, we admit we were powerless. I don't want to. I can't. When I start, I can't stop. Over alcohol, and that our lives had become unmanageable. Well, I mean, there's two sides to unmanageability, isn't there? There's internal and external, as there is with everything. You know, my conditions are both physical and mental, aren't they? And spiritual, in fact. But, you know, when I first came to AA, I thought that unmanageable, which I clearly was, even externally. You know, I thought that meant not paying the rent, you know, getting into trouble, arguing with girlfriends, losing jobs, blah, blah, and all the rest of it. It does mean that. But it also means, on a much, much deeper level, much profoundly deeper than the outside stuff, because the outside stuff compared to the inside stuff is marginal. It really is. I don't care what your outside stuff is, it still will be marginal compared to the inside stuff. You know, the inside stuff, i.e., is your emotions. You know, your feelings. You know, unmanageable. Can't manage them. What does that mean? Well, they run riot. You know, I can't manage my fear. That's abnormal. I can't manage my anger. That's abnormal. I can't handle personal relationships are a struggle. You know, social situations are a struggle sometimes. You know, either bouncing like I'm fucking Mike Tyson, or you know, I crawl in like you know, like an ant. Yeah. So the unmanageability for me is two parts also. Just as is alcoholism, bodily and mentally, and unmanageability is two parts, externally, internally. Externally is the consequences, the surroundings, the situations, i.e. the consequences, and internally is the emotions, the feelings that are unmanageable. Yeah. So, I mean, you know, don't get me wrong. I mean, that is a fucking bit of a blow, isn't it? That whole fucking step. You know, you drink when you don't want to. When you start, you can't stop, and your lives become unmanageable, both internally and externally. I mean, to all intents and purposes, you're a fucking wreck, aren't you? Aren't I? Yeah. You know, so far we're identifying the problem. This is not supposed to be, you know, a 20-minute talk about depression or to make you depressed. But however, is if you don't accept the truth, chewing in yourself, your heart, you're going to keep lying to yourself and pretend that there's another way out other than the way that there is presented to you. And my experience is many have died trying to pretend that they're not what they are. My days of pretending are over. I'm fucked. I'm an alcoholic. I drink when I don't want, and when I start, I can't stop, and my life is unmanageable, both internally and externally. So ask yourself a question. This is how I was taken through step one. This is how I would take anybody through it. Same as I was shown. How can I show someone something I haven't been shown myself? You know, if someone taught me to drive a certain way, how could I show someone else a different way? There might be a different way, and good luck to you in finding that. And I'm not saying that sarcastically, but the truth is, I can only show you the way I was shown. And this is what I would say to someone. Is this: do you admit to your innermost self, your heart, that you're an alcoholic? Yeah. You drink when you don't want to, and when you start, you can't stop. Yeah. And you cannot manage your own life, both internally and externally. If your answer is yes, not just, well, I suppose so. No, that's not good enough. Go back. If you haven't been listening, or you're lying to yourself, or you're not an alcoholic, there's only 3 options. Which one is it? You're not alcoholic? Right, see you later then. Have a nice time. See you later. Enjoy your drinking. Bye-bye. It's strange, since you just came here and told me you was completely fucked from alcohol. But anyway, that's up to you. No, were you listening? No? Well, go back to the start of the video and listen again. Right? Or be you're lying to yourself. You know, whichever one. That's the only reason why you would say no to that in 3 questions, isn't it? So we work out which one it is, and then just, you know, read the video again and start again. But I always ask you the same questions. You know, do you believe you're powerless over alcohol and you cannot manage your own life? Is that your... blimey, you burn myself. Is that your experience? If the answer is yes, categorically yes, step 1 is done. Yippee. We're on our way. Because the first step is accepting the problem. Please don't anybody tell me that, you know, well, that's the 95% of the problem. 95% of the 95% of the solution is accepting it. No, it's fucking not. No, it's not. Don't talk ridiculous. There's not one step and a little bit of another one, is there? There's 12. So you'd have done one of 12 steps, haven't you? You've identified there's a problem. Well, good. That's fucking great. You're not going to do anything about it if you don't believe you've got a problem, are you? And you certainly can't do anything about it unless you know exactly what the problem is. So you do know that. But we're a long way from anywhere near 95% done. So I don't believe anybody that says, oh, well, you know, step 1, you know, I've got a strong step 1. Well, I'm glad you have. What else have you got a strong step, though? Have you got a strong step 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12? No. Well, my experience is your chances are less than average of having I'm not saying of drinking, but having a happy life. That's it. Standard. I don't care what anyone says. That's up to them what they say, you know. Well, you know, I just do step 1 and step 12. Do you? Well, good for you. I mean, it's telling anyone what to do. You know, clearly for me is what's happened to the runners in the middle. Anyway, we're not talking about that, are we? We're talking about the fact of accepting step 1, that you're alcoholic, cannot manage your own life, and that's what we've done. If you can answer yes to that, you're on step 2. You take care. See you next week.